Plans of mice and men shatter into fragments of silicon.
All right, welcome to this not E3 edition of Fragments of Silicon. I say that because even though E3 has not died, its spirit is very much alive, but we'll get to that when we get to it. Anyway, I am your host, Adam. Joining me as always are Galax and Petty. Right, let us get to the news. Galax, why don't you start us off this week?
Nothing super interesting around here. I'm almost certainly not getting a Switch 2 tomorrow, but we'll see. Unless they have one in stock when I go to pick up the amiibos that I pre-ordered. And hopefully, well, we'll see. It's supposed to be available for actual sale around midnight, so I'll see what the internet does, because I also want to see if Best Buy will sell me a frickin' Unobo. That is kind of the main thing, I guess. No other major life changes. I'm feeling almost entirely better now. Only slightly higher than normal levels of coughing still, which is good. Yeah, because it really sucked to have elevated levels of coughing for about 2 weeks. We didn't get to have my Pathfinder group on Sunday last week, which is a little bit disappointing, but we went mini golfing again, and that was fun, albeit not. I mean, I'm not good at it, but it's fun to walk around and chat.
Never been mini golfing.
And I think that's probably it.
Okay. Well, good that you are feeling better. Speaking of which, Petty, how are you handling things this week?
I exist in this mortal coil.
Petty?
Fuck.
Hello?
Alright, I forgot to switch off stereo mix. That was my bad.
You scared me there.
Yeah, no, I exist in this mortal coil, unfortunately.
Well, aside from that, how are you dealing with cat depression?
Still not super great. We got Luna's ashes yesterday. Or no, Monday. So she's now sitting on my computer.
Yeah, I remember the clinic when I had to put down my cat having a cremation option that was fairly expensive.
It is kind of expensive. It really depends where you go. Like, the clinic we went to, you also get an urn, their paw prints, and they also send you a card. So there is that at least. And I think it was only like $120.
I think they were saying like it was going to be 150.
I know when my sister's dog Ariel died, it was during COVID, so she couldn't get her cremated even if she wanted to.
Also, keep in mind this was on top of the 140 I had to pay out to actually put down my cat.
Yeah, when we brought Luna, she was already dead. So we didn't have to do any of the euthanasia stuff. It was just purely the cremation.
I mean, not to sound morbid or anything, but that does save you some money in terms of dealing with that whole situation.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, we have her ashes, and my sister got me a little plaque that has a picture of her on it. And there are places you can get custom pillows made. So we have a pillow in the shape of her that has like a design of her printed on it. So that's a thing. I'm also talking with an artist about getting a art commission made.
mm,
So I just put some money down on that on Friday. So hopefully they should start I should start seeing like sketches and stuff in the next couple weeks. But yeah, other than that, not a whole lot been going on just because it's been super rainy. The roof is still leaking, which sucks. We're gonna try. Friend of mine who's a lot better than getting up ladders than I am is gonna try one more time to fix it. But we're kind of at the point where if the like liquid patch stuff doesn't fix it, we're just gonna have to get a professional and either they tell the they're either able to just fix the issue or tell the insurance company, hey, this is pure, weather damage. You guys should be covering a roof replacement. I guess in happier news, Mom has a job now. She starts. Where is my calendar? Her start date is the 22nd, assuming nothing comes up on her background check, which nothing should come up on her background check. But it was one of those things, from HR, because, they need to have their out because they don't know if anything's going to come up. But yeah, as far as gaming goes, I have been playing a lot more games on the Xbox One in the front room because Noise likes to lay there on the couch. So it was one of those I get to spend time with Noisy and play some Xbox games. They have had a spurt of Xbox One or Xbox Series X's come into GameStop. I may see about getting a used one in time, just to make sure I have one with a disk drive, because, that way I still have access to my 360 library. Because I think of all the games I own, only 3 of them are not Xbox One/Series compatible. So definitely good to be able to just play those, because I don't know if the hard drive is having issues in my Xbox One. Which, I mean, it's an easy fix. I literally just go down to anywhere and get either 500 gig or terabyte SSD that it's SATA, and then slap it in there and Bob's your uncle. So it's not hard. I just need to sit down and just pull the drive out, have Windows scan it and see if it detects any bad sectors, and decide how I want to proceed from there. Because that will also help, just boost speed and performance in general, because it's going from a spinning disk to an SSD. But yeah, I did end up getting some of the DLC for Vampire Survivor, just because it's one of those things that I can just chill out to. So I can be petting Noise with one hand and be playing Vampire Survivor with the other, which is kind of nice. What else did I download? Let me see if I can pull it up on my Xbox app. I've been trying to play Oblivion, but the only way I can play it on the Xbox One is through the cloud thing, and the wireless chip on the Xbox on the one ain't great.
Mm.
I have been messing around with Arcade Paradise, which is an interesting thing. It feels like kind of like Goat Simulator, but what if they went slightly more sane, but only slightly? And what was that other game I was playing? It's not showing up on here for some reason, but there was something else I was playing on the Xbox. I'll probably figure it out tomorrow. I'll probably figure it out later and just, yeah. And I guess in the last bit of gaming news before we move on, my Final Fantasy XIV raid team is looking for a caster DPS. If you're interested, PM me in Discord. We're doing the Savage raids for the current 7.1 patch. So if you're interested in some casual raiding on Tuesdays and Thursdays, let me know. But yeah, I think that's it from me.
Okay, then.
Yeah, a little more
Then-
girthy than we were thinking, but it's fine.
Well, I mean, we have time. We
Yeah.
don't have to worry about, another show showing up.
Mm-hmm.
So we can be a bit more long-winded while MSP is not in production.
Right.
That being said, I guess it's my go. So I've actually been fairly busy this week because I think I mentioned it last week, but it is summertime. So yeah, I definitely mentioned this last week.
Yep. You have the children.
Yes. Specifically because my brother works. He's a bus driver, so he cannot leave kids unattended. So
I mean, you can depending on the age, but I get you.
One of them's 6, so I think that would be very bad.
I mean, I was left alone when I was 6, but granted, you've also met me, so take of that as you will.
It's also things were different in the 80s and the 90s.
I guess for me it was early 2000s, but yeah.
That's still quite a ways from now.
Fair.
Also, your parents didn't get divorced ugly. Very. I'm like, it's actually been a point of contention. Not with my brother, but that's getting beyond the scope of this conversation.
Valid.
Like, anyway, the point is, especially with dear mother, getting more advanced in her age, I'm the one who needs to look after the kid because my job is this thing, so that precludes me to keeping an eye on them, even while doing a thing for this program. And I can do it while my brother is working. So thankfully the kids are mostly self-sufficient. In the sense that dangle a smartphone in front of them and they will literally be entranced for hours.
Yeah, it's less self-sufficient and more self-occupying, I guess. Because if they're self-sufficient, they'd be able to just stay home and not need you to watch them.
Right. So the point is, the really troubled times is when one of their phones gets a low battery. And like the youngest starts demanding that I put on Mr. Beast, which I flat out told him I wasn't going to do, because I hate him. And I'm like, I am very well aware of how successful he is. I'm still not putting him on.
That is valid.
Here's the fun thing. he is a child. I am the adult. So
I
if
pay the bills.
even the point is my authority will always supersede yours.
Mm-hmm.
So say we're not putting on Mr. Beast doesn't get put on.
Mm-hmm.
Nor are we watching your 5,000th Minecraft video for the day. Seriously, so
Yeah.
Minecraft. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, I'm sorry you don't, you're not finding monsters at work all that ultra compelling. Trying to figure out what a kid wants to watch is not the easiest thing in the world. When you're working off of Disney Plus, not YouTube. Anyway, putting those sort of frustrations aside, it's been fine. Like, just mainly making sure they don't leave a mess and pick up their things and such other endeavors. Next week will be clear because they will be with their mother. Like my brother and his ex are trading off the kids during the summertime.
Mm.
Like, anyway, aside from that, it is also, I guess the official term for it is the Summer Games Fest now.
I
But
miss E3.
yeah, well, I mean, we still got E3, just a bit more fractured.
Yeah, that's the thing that I miss about E3 is it was condensed.
Yeah, I'm like, like, it looks like most everything is happening in the next few days.
Yeah.
But there's some question marks here. From what I've been hearing, there's going to be some notable absences this year.
Ooh.
I've heard that Nintendo may not be doing a Nintendo Direct this month.
Which, I mean, is valid because they literally blew everything they had for the year with the Switch 2, or at least most important stuff was already blown like less than 60 days ago.
Yes and no, but it's more they gotta put out their release dates for like Pokemon and Metroid Prime.
They already did. Well, for Pokemon.
Yeah, I heard Pokemon, but that's my point.
Yeah.
Like the biggest thing is more the release dates for the fall season.
Mm-hmm.
More than unveiling things for the year.
Yeah.
Which may be another reason why they don't do it. Which kind of ties into Ubisoft, who is also reportedly not doing a conference thing this year. Because they don't got nothing right now.
Yeah.
They just launched Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and yeah, I don't remember them even having anything of repute like going on.
Right. That's because they've been kind of busy imploding.
Yeah, Skull and Bones did not do them any favors.
A lot of stuff didn't do them any favors. But, anyway, so been trying to keep track of the game announcements as they come in while also watching the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, once again, they are very entranced with their smartphones, so they don't see all the game footage that's on the television over there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, that's been my week. So merrily we shall roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast, and joining us here today is Dan Clark of Moonray Studios.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right.
Right.
You
Well,
guys
it's
seem well.
indeed. It is good to have you back on the program after a good half decade.
Yeah, it's been a minute. It's been a minute.
Yes. Though, from what I've been able to gather, we are the conversation isn't going to be too far away from what we talked about last time, and that was title shock. But we'll get to that when we get to that.
Yeah.
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 Since it's been quite a while since you've been on our program, we're probably going to need to reintroduce you to the audience.
Absolutely.
And with that, we begin with this question. What got you interested in video games, both on a personal and a professional level?
Yeah, well, I know you guys were talking earlier about being a kid in the 80s kind of deal. Well, that was me. So I'm an older guy. So I remember my summers being spent in the arcades, jamming quarters into the machines and playing Gauntlet, back in the day, playing Dragon Slayer, all those games. It kind of just gelled with me. As I began my career in art. One of my first, so I studied illustration at Sheridan College here in Canada. And one of the things that I did for my first job was I worked with a newspaper organization, and we spent massive amounts of time playing Marathon, the very first game. So yeah, we were working. Don't tell them. It's been. I think the statute of limitations is up on that. But running around the arena and blasting each other for what was supposed to be a lunch hour break that quickly spun into 3 hours of just having a blast on a multiplayer LAN game, And I was hooked ever since. So been. Moonray Studios has been around for 18 years, so I've been doing this for a while. I've done lots of games for film and television, and then started making my own games.
So you're one of the founders of Moonray.
Yeah, it's my company. So, yeah, I live outside of Toronto, and there's not really a bustling game community where I live. So, in order for me to do games, I had to make my own company, which was maybe the best and worst mistake I ever made. Had fun.
That is the burden, so to speak, of choosing to work with your passions.
Exactly. Well, the good thing is you don't really have to work because you're doing your passion, so every day is fun. It's just making ends meet's always the fun part.
Quite the definition of the word fun. But
I hear you.
Yeah. And what sorts of television and film games did Moonray produce back when that was your main focus game-wise?
Yeah. Well, like I was saying, I'm a little bit older, so you guys probably remember back when the internet really started to kind of cook and everybody kind of had it. All of the broadcasters that were producing television shows were all anxious to try to have online portals, so they'd have like game portals that were like the little flash games and that.
Right.
So up here in Canada, there's a couple of the big national broadcasters were developing game portals that were companion games for the television shows that they were broadcasting. And I was building a lot of those stuff from, George of the Jungle. I made a app for that for, I think that was Cartoon Network up here. Then there was like Chirp on CBC. Yeah, just a bunch. Even back to like YTV. I don't know if you guys got YTV where you are, but it was.
We didn't, but we've heard about it because
You heard about it?
some YouTubers we've either watched or interviewed. They
Yeah.
are of Canadian persuasion.
So they're all in the YTV generation kind of deal. Well, I was making the games that were online, and they weren't all like preschool games. Some of them were there's a classic show that was out back in the day. It was called Ghost Hunters, and it was this show where they would take this van and a bunch of kids, and they go to this haunted house, and they'd wear like a headset, and they make these kids go into one of these haunted houses, and they would have to conduct like an investigation to see if they could find stuff. So the guy in the van would talk to them on a headset, and he would just terrify them. He was like, "Oh, that's the room where this happened. Oh, this is," and they're just terrified. But I made a companion site for that where it was like this kind of like online access to the security system from behind the scenes, where you got to go and conduct a ghost hunting investigation, kind of a bit like Plasmophobia, but you weren't walking around. You're actually hacking into video feeds and doing these kind of experiments and terrifying the players, just like the show was, which was a blast.
I'll take your word for it.
It really was. It really was fun. And considering back in the day, that was back when, video online was, 240, pixels wide. So,
Right. Yeah. I got to admit, didn't grow up with what you're talking about.
I did.
That's
I did kind of. Like, we had the Cartoon Network one. We had Nickelodeon over here.
Mhm.
A lot of time was spent in Neopets.
Yep.
I find like the people of the 2000s really get in on that web game nostalgia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's a fucking
I messed
app.
around with some of them a little, but I didn't have the time for a lot of it, and
I had real games.
They were real games.
some of them were actually pretty
decent. Yeah, it was right in that time frame though. So it was like in the 2004 through 2010.
Yeah, 2004 is about the time I got broadband. So yeah.
And so, at what point did you jump off this particular train?
Well, there was kind of a shift in the industry. So, they stopped, making these kind of companion games as plentifully as they were back then when they were trying to figure everything out. So it became apparent to me that was not going to be the path for my company to take. So I started to create my own IP. So it was really kind of circumstance at the time. I had a meeting where a doctor actually from a local psychiatric hospital had heard about me through an innovation center that we have here in Hamilton, Ontario. And she came by and she was talking to me about this kind of idea to make a game of to help teach teens the language of psychosis so that they could understand when they're having mental breaks and what language to use and what signs to look for. I quickly kind of got kind of enamored with the idea and started to pitch into some of the Canadian funding agencies that we have for this project, which eventually became the game we made years back called Debris, which was a co-op narrative game specifically about psychosis, and it's kind of what got me into doing my own private IP at that point.
I guess for anyone watching the stream, Debris is what's currently being played on here.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
so this game was interesting because it was out around the time that Firewatch came out, and we have some heavy voice acting in it that's really fantastic. Voice actors were great. But the whole story was 3 people went up to this Arctic area to conduct some research, and this crack happened in the ice, and everyone got separated and pulled down. So the story is about Ryan, who's the first person, who's the first player. It's a co-op narrative. Is player 1, and Ryan wakes in the darkness, and he can hear his partner Sonia over his intercom, and he's trying to find her, and she's trying to find him. And it's the story about how, within this dangerous situation, how one of these characters is beginning to lose touch with reality and having a psychotic break, and the other one isn't. And it's, how do you navigate an unfamiliar world, a dangerous environment or a dangerous situation, in a way that is safe and effective. So when the players are kind of together, when they finally meet, there's these kind of revelation of what one's seeing might not be what the other one's seeing. How do you manage that kind of break with reality to resolve a common purpose? It was fascinating. It was really fun to do, and working with the doctors was kind of amazing. We actually had 2 doctors on staff that were making sure that we were doing it right and we were being respectful. Oh, and there's the squid. So that's Sonia right there. So Ryan thinks he's going to find her. He only finds the drone that she's piloting, which happens to be a squid.
And was debris successful for you?
Depends again on how you quantify successful. In terms of making a bunch of money off of it, no, not so much. In terms of being a rewarding experience and like learning a lot through making this first kind of title, it was invaluable. But from a marketplace, one of the things that we did was, as you can see from the feed that's coming up, there's lots of voice acting that's going on. There's not a lot of decisions that are being made around the narration or the story. There's a few real branching moments, but what we found was a lot of people watched the stream and didn't need to really play the game. They didn't really get into playing it. So when you get back to the word successful, our goal when we started out was to teach people the language of psychosis and to understand that you can deal with this break with reality in kind of a compassionate way. And we had like lots of people stream this game right through to the end. They weren't purchasing it, but thousands, hundreds of thousands of people got to hear the message that we were trying to do, and that's great to have that kind of voice. Would have been great if they bought the game, but it's also great that it got out there.
Okay, this sounds familiar. I think this came up last time.
Oh, was I complaining about this last time?
I think so.
Oh man, I'm still bitter. How many years ago is this?
Oh,
No, but that's part of like all of this is learning and trying to understand. What building games is complicated. There's so many moving parts, in pulling it all together cohesively and making it not only marketable but profitable and enjoyable. Those are 3 things that are really hard to balance. And for the first game out of the gate, I think we did pretty well, and we learned a lot that's helped us as we moved on.
indeed.
Yeah, one of the things we have learned from doing this so long is we've never heard somebody say this was easier than they expected.
Yep.
Oh, so I'm not alone. That's good. That's good.
You are
No,
not, and I'm pretty sure if someone ever actually sincerely says that, we may, all 3 of us collectively may lose our minds.
It all went on budget, on time, and turned out exactly how we wanted it to.
I think that's the best we've gotten. Or I had to scrap anything, and I still managed to do it in like say a year and a half.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, so how did you move from something like Debris to something like Title Shock? I suppose before we get into that question, I do have to ask, what is Title Shock for the uninitiated?
Yeah, Title Shock is a underwater arena shooter. So it's a multiplayer game where you dive in this 360 environment, and lay waste to your opponents. They're up, down, over. It's got these sprawling kind of vistas taken from Debris. Like, we really learned how to do level design where it wasn't about ground plane. And this was taking something like a narrative game that we kind of got this stylistic understanding of underwater, and then translating it into something a little bit more active, a little bit more adrenaline pumping. And, like I said before, harkening back to my days of playing Marathon, trying to get that blast that I had when I was young playing these multiplayer games with my friends. Um, I'm a water guy too, so it's another game underwater. I love the 360 mechanic of it all, and it's I just really wanted to get that sense of freedom and excitement and adrenaline that you get from those kind of classic arena shooters.
Okay, like I don't really have anything to add to that, but it's like there is the through line though, the water, because otherwise, Debris and Title Shock, or I guess is how it's titled now, Title Shock Off the Hook,
Mm-hmm.
are very they're like the complete opposite in terms of like games.
Oh my God. They could not be any different from each other. And and it might be a little bit of a delayed reaction to what happened with Debris. One of the things that we heard with Debris a lot was uh, we had this weapon that the person would hold in this narrative game, but it was really something that would shoot light flares so you could see. But people, every time they would see any of our artwork or they would see the game, they'd go, "Oh my God, it's Subnautica, but with guns!" And they get all excited. And it's like, "Hey, Subnautica with guns, that's a great idea." Why am I not dialing into something like that? So it might be a little bit of a reaction to not only what I loved as a kid, but what I heard when I was at PAX West, in promoting Debris. There's seemed to be a lot of call for this type of game.
Like, I
Yeah,
mean,
in you're right. It is called Title Shock Off the Hook, and well, part of it is when we released Title Shock, which was a few years ago, in early access. The game was a premium game, so it was like $7 or $8 or something. Part of Off the Hook, what we've done with that is we've gone completely free to play on the game right now. And it will be free to play forever, as far as we're concerned, with Off the Hook, and that's why it's Off the Hook. No money required to dive into the pool and have a blast.
I get the connotation.
Yeah.
And what led you to that decision? What led you to turn this from a premium product to free to play?
Well, it's interesting. In part of what we found with Title Shock when we launched was, we had a lot of trouble with multiplayer games. Getting concurrent players is always rough. And especially when you're the little guy without those great big marketing budgets, getting awareness is difficult. And part of what we learned with Title Shock when we launched was that we had trouble making lobbies. So going Off the Hook, removing this financial barrier was our effort to give back and say, it's more important that people are playing this game and enjoying this game, and then we can make something of this game if we have the people there that are supporting us. So let's remove the barriers for getting in. Just get in, play. We also see like a real commonality with all of our reviews. It's like anyone who plays the game gives us thumbs up. Anyone who gets stuck waiting for a lobby is disappointed and gives us thumbs down, saying they liked the look of the game and just couldn't get in. So we wanted to, try to get as many people into the game so people could experience what we built. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I think so. And how long ago did you make this a free to play shooter?
Oh man, it's literally, I think we're on like 7 weeks now, something like that. So we just came out of early access in our 1.0 release. That's when we switched over to Title Shock Off the Hook. And it's only been 6 weeks at this point since we've been free to play, and there's been a massive uptick in people downloading the game and getting the game. We've seen more people actively just jumping in and grabbing it or throwing it in their library. We see lots of people throwing it in their library. We're still having trouble with concurrent players, but there's a lot bigger base there now.
That does make sense, given that it is a free product and all that stuff. Yeah, and um,
It's an interesting dilemma though. Like when it's free, you get a lot more people that'll grab it and throw it in their library. But if
mhm.
somebody pays for it, they're more apt to play the game. So there's a lot of people popping it in their library but not firing it up.
Right.
When people are actually throwing money down, they're a little bit more invested in playing it and sticking around. So we noticed that as well, that a lot of people are grabbing it because it's free. Not a lot of people are starting it up. Well, not as many as we would like are starting it up.
Mm. I mean, as you said, that is the dilemma of any free to play game.
Yep, absolutely.
And it's like the true challenge isn't engagement, because engagement can be through the roof, but that in the short term, but that doesn't pay the bills, literally. And
Mhm.
it's more about building, actual community.
Ab-
And you know,
Absolutely couldn't agree more. And like we've got a Discord community that's just fantastic. Like we love these guys. They're amazing. We hold Saturday night dives where we all get together and make sure that we got full lobbies and have a blast together. Like they're a dedicated small group. And though the small group of players that are actually playing us, they love us, and they're actually purchasing skins, and it shows that we have a viable kind of path if we can just get enough people to come in and experience why this game's fun and different and interesting. But we're
right.
battling time too, right? Like everybody's got their time management and they've got so many games that are flooding the market, and there's so little time to play them all, right?
Yeah, I mean that's something that comes up, but um, you know, it's particularly fierce in the multiplayer shooter arena,
Hmm.
um, because there's a multi-layered problem that a lot of games face. Um, it's not just getting invested in your game, it's keeping them there and not having them not get invested or getting uninvested with other games.
Hmm.
You know, because yeah, something like Title Shock here isn't going to be quite the time investment as even like say Fortnite, let alone World of Warcraft.
Hmm.
But it's still a time commitment.
Yeah, well, I think the way that I look at it is, uh, with Title Shock in particular, harkening back to kind of those old school arena shooters, this game's not about like long grinds at all. It's really more about adrenaline, jumping in, and just having a blast. As you can see, even by the graphics on it, like we don't take ourselves seriously. It's not like super overly militaristic. It's not trying to be, a, a, a true kind of like first person shooter simulator, like you see a lot of the multiplayer shooters in the genre looking like. I know Fortnite's not that, but we really wanted to dip into fun, not saying, hey, this is the game that you got to come home and have to play every single night because you just really need to grind out to get to the next level in Destiny or whatever. It's more, yeah, this is a blast when me and my buddies are together to, crash for a couple hours, hop on a torpedo and send it flying at each other.
And something that is working to the benefit of Title Shock is it's got a, pardon the pun, a hook. Because there's not many or any other underwater PvP shooters out there, as far as I know.
Yeah, there's a couple, but part of what we've done is we've really distilled it down to, the joy in the freedom that you get within kind of an underwater environment versus the oppression that you typically get in an underwater environment. So the trick is people kind of like fall into this. I need to make it feel like it's underwater, so everything's a little slower, everything's a little draggier. And with us, it was more, this is a way of doing a flight simulator with, high twitch. And it's not a zero gravity one where you're constantly fighting momentum all the time. That's got this really nice vibe to it.
Buoyancy, but not.
Yeah, in the
friction.
the control mechanic on it is very similar to other shooters, but the freedom of this 360 up down and our level design really kind of sets it apart and makes it feel a lot different than anything else on the market, even underwater shooters. There's no sharks, which most have. But I think we are
And
the only ones that you ride torpedoes on.
once again, I wouldn't know. I'm like, but I think that's a fair claim to make.
Oh, I'm making it. I'll stake that claim.
So bold of you to do so.
I try.
But anyway,
Yeah.
so it is a free-to-play shooter. So
Yes.
that does mean that there are microtransactions.
Yes. So everything's just cosmetics.
Okay. What sorts of cosmetics can you purchase at this time?
Yeah, so you'll see that as these screens are kind of loading up, you'll see like there's a shark outfit, there's an emoji outfit, there's like these skins that aren't the typical kind of skins. So the skin that the player is wearing right now is part of our progression system. So as you earn XP within the game, you level up from guppy level straight up to killer whale. So this guy I think's at eel level right now. So you get these new skins through progression and XP, but then you can buy like a Kraken outfit. You can buy, a Corgi outfit. So you can buy some of those fun outfits. The other thing that you can do is purchase skins for the torpedoes that you're riding. So you can ride around on the typical kind of standard torpedo that we've got, or, a shark one, or a anglerfish one. So we've got those kind of cosmetics. None of them affect gameplay. It's more just a visual kind of aesthetic that we're dealing with. Yeah, and I don't know if you can see through the video that you're playing here. You'll notice that there's these shields that keep popping up. Those are another thing that you can buy cosmetics on those shields. So they have different kind of like decals on them. Slightly different shapes, but in different VFX on them. So you can kind of customize what your character looks like, what your sled looks like, what the shields look like. Oh, there's the skin page right there. So there you go. Yep. But those are the microtransactions. So that's the only thing that we're charging for.
Okay. What's the price range there?
Yeah, they're pretty affordable. I'm just gonna actually check right here. God knows I don't have it all right in the top of my head. Sorry, one sec.
Live research.
Yeah, I know. Live research. That's the way it goes. So we do have like a tsunami bundle that is like all of them, but the skin packs here in Canada, like so Canadian, it's $750 for 4. different character skins. So you get 4 skins for $750. The gear pack, which is the thing that has all of the different torpedoes that you can ride and shields, that's $16.99. And then the tsunami bundle, I think that one, like the full bundle, is just slightly more. I think it might be like $24.99. So we think we've priced everything pretty fair. They're not $1 a skin, but we've got these groups of skins, and we put a lot of effort into them. And we find that the fans are picking them up, and they seem to be appreciating what we built.
And what modes will one find in Title Shock?
Yeah, so that's another thing that we did that's a little bit different. So again, we didn't want to fracture our player base. So we didn't want to say, oh, match make for deathmatch, match make for, control or whatever, what other game modes there are, and fracture our lobby. So we've created a system in it, which is every single match has 3 rounds. And each one of those rounds is dynamically pulled from the 4 different game modes that we have. So we've got one that's called Reactor Rush. That one is a mode where you collect resources and have to put it on a reactor. The first team to fully charge this reactor wins the round. The next one is like a standard death match where it's like Trident's team has to defeat the Hook's team, first to 10 kills or first to 5 kills, depending on how many players are playing. Our twist on it, though, is you actually have only a minute and a half of oxygen before you have to go to an oxygen station and recharge. It prevents camping, consolidates this massive map that we have so that the action is there. And you get to hunt them and strategize around them, which adds a level of complexity to the combat. The other one we have is a point-to-point, which is basically go from one point, collect a bunch of charge, then go to another point and deposit that charge. So you've got 2 points that are in different places in the map that you're balancing between. First person to get 100 wins. The points are changing, so it'll be active for like a minute and a half, and then it'll switch to a new zone. So you get these kind of mad rushes from one point to the other. And again, part of what it's doing is it's consolidating the action into within this big map into these moments, these tension moments over and over again as people are progressing to win. And this is where the objective is. The last mode that we've got is a control mode, and that's basically a hold the point. So that one's literally a blast. Grab your point, hold it while the other team's rushing you, try to defend it as long as you can. So our system will randomly choose a location, randomly choose a mode, and then play three matches to make up the full game. And then at the end, you've got 3 stars of the game, whole bunch of trophies that we have. Like, I think there's close to 60 different trophies for what you've done in the game or what achievements you've got. And then we have this kind of ranking and XPs awarded, and back to the lobby. Let's go again.
And what's the size of the arenas? Like, how many players can you have?
Yeah, so the way we've got it is we can have 2 to 12 players in a match. So our world has it's a really big environment. So getting from one end of the environment to the other end on a torpedo where you're flying pretty quick, can be a good minute, not a minute, like 30 seconds, 40 seconds to get from one side to another. So what we have are these kind of gates that block off areas of the map. So we block off areas so that if there's only 2 players, they're fighting in a smaller area. If there's 12 players, then all of a sudden the map opens up and there's 4 of these big areas that are all interconnected that give this kind of big stage for this epic battle. again, these consolidation points are happening. So no matter how big the map is, those objective points that people are racing to, they're kind of where the action all consolidates.
And are there any plans to have player bots?
Yeah, bots are something that we're working on. We're exploring different ways that we can do it. Part of the challenge that we have is within this kind of 360 environment. Bots aren't as easy as you'd think because there's not that kind of typical ground plane. So a lot of the technology that we have to build to make proper bots within our environment is a lot more complex than you would take at kind of first blush. But it is something that we're definitely want to do, and we're looking for paths and how we can introduce bots into the game so that everybody can get playing no matter how many people are currently sitting in queue. There is a solo mode right now though, so you can play it solo and you can run through each one of these different modes except for deathmatch. So you can get a hang of driving the torpedo, using your shields, finding weapons, and navigating the environment and getting familiar. So when you do get into a battle, you really got all the controls down pat and you understand what's going on. So you're not just hopping in and trying to figure it out while someone's trying to shoot you.
And I suppose the most pivotal question has yet to be asked, and that is, what's your roadmap? What's the future of Title Shock looking like? What sorts of new modes, new maps, new skins are you planning to introduce to the game?
Yeah, well, part of what we're doing right now is we're looking for more sources of funding. We haven't seen that beautiful uptick of wow, we've got tons of players playing our game, and we've got money in the door, so we can afford to do a lot of expansion. So we're trying to be careful about what we're promising that we're going to be doing, but we're actively seeking some funding to do things like bots, to do solo co-op modes for the game using this mechanic that we've got, and also extending into tournaments. So in the short term, what we're doing is we're trying to pull everybody together for these Saturday night dives. So anybody who gets exposed to the game or hears about the game and goes, I really want to try this, knowing that you swing by on Saturday night, you're going to find a match and there's going to be people around. You're not going to be waiting in an empty queue. In supplementing our kind of Saturday night dives that we're doing to kind of grow that base that we've got, our tournaments that we're starting to work on. We want to run a few charity tournaments this year that will actively bring in a lot of our community and get them all competing together.
And along those lines,
Mhm.
what's the lore, if any? Like, are there any stories going on?
Is this
Yeah.
like related to debris in any way or whatnot?
Yeah, I know there's no interconnection to debris. Quite the opposite. You know, the backstory around the game, was just kind of an embodiment of fun. We didn't really go into this kind of like lore exploration of it.
Mhm.
We just went into more, what services the game mechanic, this kind of like respawn, jump in, action. How readable can you make it? How fun can you make it? How light can you make it? One of the things that you notice, like we've got this real neon-y kind of world, part of what that's doing is, movement creates light. So if you are static, you go dark. If you're holding energy, you shine bright. If you're moving quickly, you're going to shine bright as well. So, we wanted to do these like embedded game mechanics into the aesthetic that we've got. And that kind of led us into this kind of look to kind of deliver the competitive kind of landscape that we were trying to build within this 360 environment.
And how competitive are we talking about?
I think, well, when I guess competitive is kind of a loaded term. I would say competitive in my view of it is games like Counter-Strike. Like, they're super competitive, they're super fun. I can't last for more than 3 seconds in a match. I'm just getting obliterated, and it ain't no fun. For me, it's taking that fun and exhilaration that you get in competitive games and just taking the edge off of it. Everyone should be able to experience, that rush of, getting the kill, or that want to get revenge after you got killed without it being like overly dunked on. So, it's takes that competitive spirit in a lighter tone that we hope is more accessible to a larger audience, that doesn't get kind of put off by, that really hardcore competitive nature, but takes all of those loops that, drive that whole competitive landscape and makes it a little bit more open for casual gaming.
I guess only time will tell on that front. But getting back to the whole roadmap idea,
Mhm.
like what sorts of major updates do you have upcoming for Title Shock here?
Yeah, like I said, the main one that we're going to be doing is kind of the tournament system around it. So that's, hosting Discord tournaments that we're doing. We've got some.
More like the timeline. When do you hope to have that out?
Oh, that we're hoping to make an announcement about the tournament stuff within, the next 3 weeks. We're hoping that we're going to be announcing that. Um, in terms of like longer term timelines, we're probably looking at mid next year before we have any real major updates to the game, or maybe even like a year and a half before we have any kind of like really big dumps of solo co-op or bot systems. But we're working on it. We're diligently trying to, find options and raise some capital to do it right now.
Mm,
It's part of the
That
hard it's part of the hard part of being an indie is like there's a ton of things that we want to do. It's just, what can we afford to do?
right. Um, how big is the team?
The team fluctuates. Right now we're kind of all, waiting to see what's going on with the game right now. When we were at our height of production, there's probably 12 people that have been working on this game over the course of the years as we've been developing Title Shock.
Mm,
So we're not a massive team, but we're trying to do something different and trying to do something fairly ambitious. And you know what? Like, the technical challenge of building a multiplayer game in a 360 environment, was a little bit more than I would have anticipated at the beginning. And I'm really proud of the team that we pulled it off, and it works as well as it does, and people are digging it as much as they do.
mm. Like, yeah, a dozen people is not a whole lot for multiplayer, but
Mhm.
um, I am impressed with the result. Let's say. Like,
Oh, well, I appreciate that. And yeah, like a dozen is kind of the max. So like the game doesn't require there to be a dozen. Like, having one-on-one fights is pretty fun. It's not quite the same game as it is when it's a full brawl going with 5v5 teams. Like, that's truly another level of fun. But yeah.
and I suppose just a couple more things at this
Yeah, absolutely.
stage. Um, do you have any plans for your next project yet, or is it just still all hands on deck for Title Shock?
I'm pretty focused on Title Shock, and I know it seems kind of like, I think perhaps it sounds like an odd thing to say when you have a game that's been out for a few years like this, and struggling to find that core player base that I'm still trying to remain focused and building it. but we're committed to what we built, and we've seen so many encouraging things about our game with the community and with the fan base that it's kind of we've got a bit of wind in our sails around what we've built, what we've accomplished, and what we want to do with it. So we're kind of hanging tight and really kind of doubling down on it. We hope that shows the community that we believe in it. Like, we've been working on this game for years now. Like, we didn't run and dump it and run. We actually believe in what we did, and we're going to stick by it for now. So I'm not really out on the path of dreaming up the next adventure.
Mm. It makes sense. And I guess the final thing I want to ask is a bit unusual, but and that is the other side of your business, because I haven't mentioned it to this point because it hasn't been relevant to this particular program. So that's why I want to extend an invitation to maybe talk with us on the sister program, Moonhawk Studios Presents, about the animation side of Moonray Studio. Because I see that you also do animated features and television series and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we've worked on in the past, and we've built some technology around that. It's
Yeah.
one of the things that I'd be delighted to talk about what we've done. We haven't produced any shows or television or films yet. We're kind of in a planning stage around that. But yeah, no, I'd be happy to talk about that.
Okay. Let me see. Let me get the proper calendar. That's the Fragments this week. We could have you on July 16th, Wednesday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central.
That I think that should work. Fire me an email on that date, and I'll confirm. I'll have to check my other calendar.
Okay, because there's this whole side that we haven't been able to talk about, mainly because this show is about game development specifically, and
Yeah.
games and all that. So we usually ship that stuff to the sister program.
Oh,
But
and there's a huge intersection between the two right now, and you look at stuff like The Last of Us. How well it's done on HBO. Like this. Part of what happens when you're building out brands, in the delivery system might be a game, but the core brand itself, or whether it's Arcane, this kind of brand reach into different mediums, whether that be television, film, gaming, toys, these franchises, is part of the business of entertainment and IP creation. So they're intertwined, and if they're not intertwined in the minds of folks that are making games, it should be, because there's huge opportunities out there, in these other adjacent industries that are actually can help everything move forward. As sometimes three legs on the chair is better than one.
mm-hmm.
Personally, I'd like to get four legs underneath the table, but hey, I'm a little guy. I deal with three.
Right. Still, I look forward to talking about that.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Anyway, so I suppose I'll wrap things up here by asking my colleagues if they have any further questions for you.
I think I'm
About-
good.
Yeah, I am satisfied with the discussion so far.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate your time tonight.
No problem. No problem. It was great having you back on the program.
Oh, well, thanks.
And we look forward to seeing you again in a few weeks for the sister show.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, but in the meantime, the game is Title Shock Off the Hook. It is available now for Steam for free. But if you want to invest in the economy, you can do that. They have things like the Puffs character pack for $5.99. Most of these things are $5.99, except for the player favorite Title Shock the Gear pack, which is $12.99. The whole DLC gamut will run you currently $42.94. So be sure to engage with Title Shock today. So Petty,
Or
play
swing by on or swing by on our Saturday night dives. It's always a blast, and there's tons of folks there.
Where can they find the Discord link for that?
Yeah, so Title Shock has its own Discord channel. I can send you the link here. I think I can. Actually, I will sort out how I can do that. But the Title Shock on the Title Shock servers where we're hosting the events.
Okay.
Is it also?
If
Oh,
you
it looks
search
like
for
it's
Title Shock,
also
you'll
on.
find us off the hook.
All right.
It looks like it's also on the Steam page. So when you go download the game on Steam, you can just scroll down and go to the Discord.
Perfect. Then you're all set.
Very good.
Awesome.
So, Petty, play us to the next segment. All right. So, welcome to the topic of discussion. And we have a state of play to discuss. Just fresh out of the oven. Broadcasted 4 hours ago at this point?
Not gonna lie, we all literally
So,
forgot it was
these
happening.
are very fresh takes.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mhm.
where to start?
In the
Because
beginning, they started a stream. Wait a minute, hold on.
not what I'm talking about. It's more, this was a surprisingly packed state of play.
Yeah, I actually need to pull up my notes for this. Good lord.
Yeah, because I'm not used to state of play having as much interesting content as a Nintendo Direct, but that was this one. If nothing else, like, I wasn't inundated with a 20-minute demo of some live service title I'm never gonna play.
Mm-hmm.
No, I still haven't forgiven them for the Suicide Squad presentation. A lot of people haven't, I think.
Okay, it looks like the PlayStation blog has an alphabetical, so I guess we can go with that.
I don't have alphabetical.
Let me.
Not the way I work anyway.
Yeah.
Because I want to start with the stuff that everyone's talking about.
Yeah.
And obviously that is Marvel.
Yeah, oh shit. I was not expecting this.
Nobody
So
was.
it's not Marvel versus Capcom because A, Capcom's not doing it, and B, Disney probably doesn't want to dilute their brand or anything, but it looks like they've let Arc System take a crack at a fairly similar style of fighter.
Yes, but no. Like,
I mean, it's also Arc System Works style, obviously.
Well, yeah,
the big thing here is this is 4v4.
Yeah.
Well, that was the part that I was going to say reminds me kind of the stuff that they've done in MVCs.
Like, I get that, but this is actually like a pretty big departure for how you do something like this.
Yeah. Anyway, the game itself is called Marvel Tokon Fighting Soul, which
is redundant because that's what Tokon means.
Fighting. Yeah. Well, there's a colon in there. That's probably the fighting souls is for us.
Yeah.
No, the Marvel Tokon is for us. Like this is probably one of those, it can work wherever kind of
Yeah.
titles. Like, but yeah, so it definitely looks like an Arc System Works fighter. Like I thought it looked, characters aside, technical improvements aside, it looked pretty similar to their work on like Guilty Gear and especially Dragon Ball Fighter Z.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, nobody could have expected this because nobody could have expected this. This is brand new.
This is one of
This
those
is
things that didn't get leaked.
Yeah, it's also like unless you were a crazy person, you would never have come up with this.
If you would have sat somebody down and told them Marvel and Arc System Works were making a fighting game, they would have asked you how much cocaine you were on.
Yeah, under the auspices of Sony, because
Yes.
this is actually their major first party product that they debuted at.
Yeah, that. I think that's what a lot of people are missing. They were thinking like this is just a multi-platform release. No, Sony's hand is in this pie.
Yeah, it's being published by PlayStation Studios.
Mm-hmm.
It's been announced for the PlayStation 5 and the PC. It's not coming to Xbox. It's not coming to Switch. Like, it's a bona fide first party title. Like, I'm just glad that Sony isn't taking the stance with the PC that they do with their big single player games on this one. It's going to show up on PC 2 years later.
Well, I mean, at least now there's no reason for it now because PS5 runs x86 code. There's no reason it can't run on a PC.
I'm aware of that. That has nothing to do with performance.
I know, but like PS3 and era was, I could see the reason why stuff wasn't ported because they had to rebuild it from scratch. Now it's literally hit a button and it can run on a PC. So there's a lot less investment involved now than it was back in the PS3 era.
Right.
Anyway.
Be that as it may, I think this thing is, shot to most anticipated in record time. Mainly because it's already got the pedigree, and it's not like Capcom's doing anything with Marvel vs. Capcom.
Yeah, you have probably one of the best current 2D fighting game studios with one of the most beloved fighting game IPs having, probably basically peanut butter and chocolate situation going on here.
Right, and we covered Dragon Ball Fighter Z back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it being a pretty rousing good time.
Yeah.
And that this looks to continue that. I am interested to see how well that the 4-player tag team scenario, because this might be the first fighter to try that.
It is, yes.
I mean,
there've been 2-player and 2-character and 3-character tags,
but we're still we're adding another character to that.
Yeah,
that changes the dynamics.
Believe me, like talking to fighting game people, they're like, "Oh my god, what the fuck is going on?"
I guess it does significantly increase the possible number of combinations for your backup characters.
Indeed.
And then there's also the possibility of the backup characters actually tagging in.
Yeah, either full tagging in or just being an assist to like the just array of stuff you can do for mix-ups and stuff is going to be absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
The hot question amongst the friends of mine who are more interested in fighting games is going to be if there are going to be any Arc System Works branded secondary characters, to which my guess is no, because of what I mentioned. Disney not wanting to dilute their brand things, but it might be neat.
It really depends. Again, they're going to need the go-ahead from Disney on that.
Right.
But I wouldn't say no, honestly. It really depends.
Yeah. Also, another thing to note, even though immediate comparisons to Marvel vs. Capcom popped up.
Seeing how the literal chat was like, "Oh my god, is this another Marvel vs. Capcom? Frame 1."
Let me finish. It's a pure Marvel fighter.
Mhm.
Like, it's not a Marvel crossover fighter. Because
it's not called Marvel vs. Arc System Works or anything. So
Marvel
is, it would
Marvel
probably
X
be
Guilty
not-
Gear or what have you.
Yeah, if they did, it probably wouldn't be more than like 1 or 2 guest characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
And really, then it would only be probably Guilty Gear because they're not. Toei is not going to let them use Dragon Ball characters.
Yeah, like I could see.
We're not going to get Sega's stuff that they used for the Persona fighting game.
Who owns BlazBlue?
I think they do.
Oh, they do? I thought that was somebody else. But yeah, okay, so they might have BlazBlue in there.
I forget I forget why they did BlazBlue as a separate thing from Guilty Gear, but yeah, I wasn't sure if they were both owned entirely by the studio. But yeah, no, my guess would have been an Arc System Works original character, which mostly means BlazBlue and Guilty Gear.
Yeah.
So while we're on the subject of fighting games,
Mortal Kombat, my beloved.
Yeah. So our friends at Digital Eclipse have announced the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection, like actually being helmed by friends of the show. Stephen Frost is helming up this. I have sent a.
I was about to say that I trust the email is already en route.
Yeah, I sent him a DM. See what happens there. Keep in mind, Digital Eclipse is a lot busier than they were just a few years ago. So they
also being with WB involves a lot more chicanery.
Also, real talk. The bigger problem's Atari.
Yeah,
like Atari. It's been a lot harder to get messages to both Night Dive and Digital Eclipse since they joined up with Atari.
Yeah. Anyway.
And it's a whole thing. I'm not happy about it, but it is a thing. But behind the scenes politics aside, the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection's a curious package. Because first of all, this isn't being presented as one of the Gold Master series.
No, it is the first 4?
5?
Well, that's another thing. We don't.
They had 5 games in it, but I think it was like 3 Ultimate and 4 or something like that.
I'm like,
or
so
3
we have
trilogy and 4.
Okay, we have an initial list of Mortal Kombat in the package. The thing is, we don't know the extent of the ports or how far they're going to go.
Because they did make different editions of a lot of these games.
Yeah, because there was Game Boy edition and stuff like that in there.
Okay.
And there was footage of.
Yeah. That's not. Yeah. That's not exactly what I'm talking about, because they have announced a number of versions of each Mortal Kombat. To wit, Mortal Kombat 1, we are getting the arcade game. We are getting the Super Nintendo game. We are getting the Genesis game. We are getting the Game Gear game. And God help us, we are getting the Game Boy game.
Oh.
Look, the fact that it existed deserves to be documented. It doesn't have to be good to deserve that.
Now, that's not every port that Mortal Kombat 1 ever got. Because we're missing a couple of ports. just right off the bat here, because we don't have the Sega CD version, or it's not been announced, and I didn't see the PC version. There was a PC version of Mortal Kombat, DOS, if I'm remembering correctly. Point is, we've got a lot, and it's not like they're skimping on the ports. That is to say, just because it's on a rare or obscure system, they're not interested.
Well, because if they easily wanted to skimp, they could omit the Super Nintendo copy and just want the Genesis copy, because let's be frank, it was overall the better version.
Not what
I know.
More referring to for Mortal Kombat 2, and this is something that they announced during the presentation, was they got the 32X version of Mortal Kombat 2.
There was a 32X version?
Yes, I actually had it.
I just have the original Genesis copy.
Yeah, it's better than the Genesis version of Mortal Kombat 2.
Obviously.
It's got noticeably better color saturation and stuff.
Not just that, but probably frame rate. I'm aware of the chug that MK2 had on Genesis.
Yeah, and I actually know the reason why that is. That's because Mortal Kombat 2 was actually made. The main system it was ported to was the Super Nintendo. Yeah, I was surprised too when I learned that. Anyway, so I have the currently announced Mortal Kombat list here. Mortal Kombat, I already ran through that. Mortal Kombat 2, Arcade, Super Nintendo, Genesis, Game Boy, 32X. Mortal Kombat 3, Arcade, Super Nintendo, Genesis, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, Arcade, Super Nintendo. We're getting weirder and weirder as we go down. Because why no Genesis? Anyway, Mortal Kombat 4, Arcade, just the arcade version. Mortal Kombat Advance, Game Boy Advance. Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance for the Game Boy Advance.
What?
Yeah. They're only doing the Game Boy Advance version of Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance. Because that was a 2D affair.
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat Tournament Edition for the Game Boy Advance. And listed under that, question mark. So, as you can see, there's a lot of Mortal Kombat.
Cybot's Revenge.
I'm actually shocked they're doing 3 Ultimate, not trilogy.
Yeah, once again, there is a lot of Mortal Kombat missing. There's no Mortal Kombat trilogy. There's no Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero.
That one I could kind of see, because the whole FMV stuff in it, getting that to upscale nicely would be a bitch. I know it can be done, but
the Nintendo 64 version didn't have FMV. It had still. So you could just use the Nintendo 64 version.
Valid. I totally forgot that existed, yes.
Yeah. Mortal Kombat Special Forces. The really forgotten Mortal Kombat spinoff.
Was that the one that mained Jax?
Yes.
Oh, ye gods in hell.
So, like I said, there's a whole lot of Mortal Kombat here. There's a whole lot of Mortal Kombat they could announce.
Yeah.
We don't know they're teasing more stuff. Keep that in mind.
I would actively be shocked if they totally omitted trilogy, because that's honestly, if you played any version of the original 3 games, just play trilogy. It has all the bug fixes they needed from the first 2 in MK3's superior engine.
Right. So,
and they had footage in the trailer of it of behind the scenes stuff, is it going to include that like some of the stuff they've done has, or
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the thing.
a
They're
lot of the stuff they're probably pulling out of the quote unquote crypt mode from some of the other MK titles.
Mhm.
So that's
Anyway,
probably why it still
I don't,
exists. But yeah,
I don't want to get too dragged into Mortal Kombat.
I guess there is one quick thing that I also mentioned with Mortal Kombat: the fight stick. Because this is the first
Right.
time Sony has produced an actual wireless fight stick.
Yes. Anyway, so moving on, Bloodstain is getting a sequel.
This one looks a
Blood-
bit looks a bit shinier.
Yeah,
Or not shinier, but more polished.
I thought hell froze over and we were getting a new Castlevania. It seems hell is still hot.
It looked like Bloodstain to me.
It wasn't as much as it looked like Bloodstained to me. It was just the themes and subtle nods that if I was waiting for them to just say Dracula.
Oh, okay.
I
so
mean, the entire point of the franchise is Iga saying, well, they won't let me use these specific words, but you can't trademark themes or game mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, so it turns out this isn't a sequel; it's a prequel.
Yeah, because it just says 16th century.
Well, Bloodstained: The Scarlet Engagement is a prequel to Ritual of the Night and follows Leo and the fearless Black Wolves as they prepare to storm the cursed Eternal Castle and confront the rising darkness. End quote. So,
and it looks like you can control two characters at once, so I'm sure there will be absolutely no Jonathan Charlotte jokes.
Bro, they were making those in the fucking chat.
I'd imagine. But still, now
I wouldn't
that
be surprised if they break up the capabilities of Miriam and also Zangetsu in between the playable characters instead of just having one character that can do everything, though, this time.
Yeah. Anyway, speaking of returning, our good friends at Enhance have announced that Luminous is returning.
I honestly thought we were getting another Tetris effect, and then I saw who was making Luminous. Like, oh, okay, never mind. It tracks.
I knew it was Luminous from the get go because I know what the Luminous configuration versus Tetris.
Once it was more the art style and the music was like, oh, is this Tetris effect? And then the gameplay was like, oh, that's not Tetris.
Yeah, but I believe this is the first new Luminous game since the Vita one.
Probably.
Yeah. The last release of a Luminous game was Luminous Remastered, which we actually reviewed some years back.
Mm-hmm.
Because for whatever reason, we're on Enhance's PR list, and they send us titles when they have one available. Like they send us, like they sent us the Tetris Effect. Remember?
Yep.
And that
spoilers, I love Tetris.
and also like that puzzle game Humankind.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what I'm saying is we'll probably be covering Luminous Arise. Anyway, Neo 3 was announced.
Mm-hmm. I need to beat Nero 1 and 2 at some point.
I need to play. I have the first Neo. I need to play it.
Same.
I don't think I've played any of them.
I got them both stupid cheap at GameStop. I think they were also having like a buy two get one free sale, so it was one of those why not.
I guess they are on Steam.
Yeah, they are on Steam now. So if you want to get them,
my computer probably could play the first two.
Most definitely, like the computer
one might be too high end.
The brand new one you might be able to play, but I know the first two, since they're PS4 games, you can run anything from the PS4 era, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
that reminds me, I do need you to at some point walk me through what I need to do to make my computer able to run Windows 11. Sorry.
Anyway, so another contender for announcement of the state of play, Final Fantasy Tactics getting finally the HD treatment.
The dev posted an interesting, somewhat political statement about re-releasing the game.
I'm like, yeah, I wasn't too impressed, if only because the current, the updated statement was a lot more generalized, where the old one was very specific to Japan.
Uh-huh.
And I guess something to note, the team who's doing this, Creative Studio 3, is the team behind Final Fantasy 14. They are all big Ivalice fans. So don't worry,
Right.
people who were wondering, it's in good hands.
Yeah.
My main concern is why they haven't announced that they're adding Vieira and Numo. I'm kidding.
No, I didn't hear what you said.
What? Why they haven't announced that they're adding Vieira and Numo?
Huh?
Am I not coming through clearly?
No, you just
No, nobody got your reference.
Yeah.
Okay, the Final it's because it was the first Final Fantasy game that was in Ivalice.
Yes.
But Tactics only has pretty much humans in it, and like a couple of non-human side characters,
Mm.
and a construct. And Moogles was too easy, so those
Fair.
are two of the ones that I referenced are two of the other races that you could, or tribes that you can play as in Tactics Advance and Advance 2 or A2. And are in Final Fantasy 12, which is also set in the same setting.
And I guess something else to note, that the Tactics Advanced and Mortal Kombat collection are the only two that look to be noted to also be coming on PS4.
They finally stopped releasing literally everything on the previous generations.
Yeah, the generation is slowly dying.
Yeah.
Oh, finally.
Wait, no, Ninja Gaiden Ragebound is also coming to PS4. I missed that.
That's another game that has very little mechanical reason why it shouldn't. Same with the Final Fantasy Tactics one. Yeah. Even the HD Final Fantasy Tactics with a lot of voice acting is still based on Final Fantasy Tactics' graphics.
Mm-hmm. But it's still one of those things to note, if you're still rocking a PS4 in 2025, soon your well of new games will be drying up.
Like, anyway, in the randomness of random pile, Thief is making a, well, not grand return, because there was literally
a VR return.
Yeah, nobody was asking for a VR focused, like an actual VR experience Thief game.
Oh, this is just fully VR. I thought it would just have like VR integration. Ugh.
No. And
why?
It's using the fucking reboot logo. So I'm not exactly instilled with confidence that this is going to be any good.
Yeah. Also, I just don't feel how Thief could work in VR without making you want to vomit.
Well, that's for them to figure out,
I guess. Oh God! I just looking at the trailer again, just watching them go up the rope made me almost retch. Ugh.
Anyway, Suda 5-1's new game, Romeo is a Dead Man, it has been.
I am intrigued.
It looks very Suda 5-1.
Yep.
You have my attention. I might see about at least renting it. Well, because I know how Suda 51 games go.
Right.
That's why it's a tepid rent and not I will be seeing the GameStop man on launch day, you know?
At least this time, this time he's not going to be constrained like with Switch hardware.
Mm-hmm. Or Wii.
Anyway, some important release date announcements got made. Chief of which, Silent Hill F.
F or Forte, we don't know what the hell they're doing.
So my only concern about having a Silent Hill game set in Japan is, what are the residents of Shizuoka going to think about this?
Fuck off. They're probably going to be thinking, why are all these Westerners staring at our buildings again?
Anyway,
Because Shizuoka is a real place in Japan, and it's
Mhm.
written Silent Hill.
Yes.
anyway, this is coming out September 25th. Now, I think this is the biggest release date announcement. Like, not this game is being announced for a year.
Mm-hmm.
There was a fair amount of that, and I suppose chief among that set was Pragmata.
Yeah, that one looks interesting. Yeah.
At least Capcom's doing something new.
Yeah. I'll
Granted,
also asterisk, at least Capcom is doing something.
It does maybe look a tiny bit like if you put, say, Dead Space, Death Stranding.
It looks like they basically made a single player version of Exo Primal, just took out the dinosaurs.
Sure.
So I guess Golix and or I get the next one, which is something we've been extremely hotly anticipated. Digimon Story Time Stranger finally gets its release date for October 3rd.
Which is not too far away.
Guess what's going to be streamed, guys, on this channel?
And it comes with the requisite Bandai Namco. Hey, here's like 4 different editions of the game. Plus,
I know.
if you're getting a physical version, there's another one that has. No, it's 3 plus 1 that only applies for physical stuff.
I desperately want the collector's edition because it has Lunamon card.
I am debating strongly about the collector's edition because I want the art book. I would like the cards. I do not really have a great place to put a 15 centimeter Jupitermon Wrath Mode statue.
But don't you like Jupitermon?
It's okay. I'm not as big of a fan of Wrath Mode, actually, amusingly. I mean, clearly Wrath Mode is going to be like the big climactic fucking thing of this. Equivalent to Eater Examon in Cyber Sleuth, probably.
Maybe.
Or something. Or more.
Yeah,
Or what, Archidemon Super Ultimate in Hacker's Memory.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a big set piece thing. How final remains to be seen, but it's going to be a big set piece.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, like, we're definitely looking, at least me and Golix and Ogre are looking forward to this.
Mm-hmm.
I will probably forget it exists until, well, you guys mention it again.
Yeah, this isn't, they had announced this before and there's been a trailer before, but this is a bunch more new stuff. A lot of the pre-order stuff is neat, but not necessarily like that big of a deal, honestly.
As long as if you just get the game and get the Ultimate Edition, you'll get everything you need because it also comes with the season pass stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm just talking about even the Ultimate Edition. The most of the pre-order stuff is costumes.
Yeah.
And then what, Black Agumon and Black Gabumon, which are almost certainly going to be available in the game regularly, but you'll get them earlier, probably?
Actually, no. For the original Digimon Cyber Sleuth, if you didn't pre-order, you didn't get Black Agumon and Black Gabumon.
Okay, well, they probably don't have huge lines anyway, but we'll see.
They don't. It was literally just the black variants of Gray and
do that and don't let it interweave. That's the entire thing of
I
Digimon.
know.
And
then
also special Agumon and special Gabumon, they can evolve only into fucking Agumon Bond of Courage and Gabumon Bond of Friendship, which that I'm glad to have siloed off onto its own thing because I do not like those forms. They are ugly.
I don't mind them, but
I don't hate them, but they're okay, aesthetically, they're mediocre and less good than all of their other forms, and thematically, That's a Greymon and a Garurumon, not an Agumon and a Gabumon. Agumon doesn't have a helmet, and Gabumon is a lizard wearing a fur coat.
Fair.
That
I will.
said, they can redeem it one notch for me, if and only if, when you get Gabumon Bond of Friendship, you can actually use it as a motorcycle, because it's supposed to be able to transform into a motorcycle. It was never actually shown doing this except for in some SD art on the Digimon Twitter.
But they have redeemed themselves. You can ride Genkumon.
Ha! Is it piggyback style or?
No, you're on his shoulder.
Yeah, that's close enough. It's not like he's holding you.
Yeah.
I'm thinking specifically of the Machamp ride Pokemon in Sun and Moon.
No, it's basically that.
I don't think you're remembering the Machamp ride Pokemon correctly.
Probably not, but
He's holding you like a baby in his two small arms and using his two big arms to push rocks.
Oh, no, then yeah, no. It's in the private one. But yeah, I guess another thing that would be kind of cool for the like special Agumon and Gabumon is if they had the anime voice actors.
They did do an anime voice actors one before.
Yes,
so
and that's like
they may have that.
Instead of it just
before, if you evolved it, they lost that, so they would have to not do that this time. At least for that one other form. I'll be curious if it evolves through the whole line and then to that.
Yeah, it'd be nice if it evolves through the whole line and has the anime voices.
Rookies that, if you can train them enough, can evolve to what level? I think they're considered megas, so
Mega Ultras, Ultra. Level 7.
It depends on. Well, we'll see if they're using the term Ultra still in this game, because
they flip-flop. I totally understand. Some of them use Ultra, some of them still use Mega. I hate it when they use Mega for the things that are above Mega, but that's
I got used to that early in my fandom because I was in there from the beginning, and there was a long history starting on of if you are Mega and evolve, you become another kind of Mega.
Mm-hmm.
And on the reference book, the Bond forms are just listed as Mega.
Yeah, I think the cards are listed as Mega too.
Yeah, some interesting things. Well, they're Mega, but they're level 7, I think.
Yes, but the level 7s are also Mega. Like even Omnimons are listed as Mega.
Yeah. I noticed some interesting things, though, someone brought it to my attention, and then I verified it. They've added, in the previous game had Data Vaccine Virus Rock Paper Scissors with Free as a central node.
Yes.
And then it had a 9-element elemental system.
Yeah, that is specifically the story battle system, yes.
Right, which were fire is good against, grass is good against, fire is good against, nature is good against water, electricity is good against, wind is good against earth, and dark and light are good against each other, and there was a neutral thing. In this game, since they showed a profile page, there are 7 attribute entries.
Which, good.
And 11 elements.
Like, I'm honest.
Data Vaccine Virus Free and what other 3? I think they showed they were having possibly more hybrids this time, so they might make those variable, which is what they've traditionally been.
Yeah, variable. There could be unique.
There's also, I don't think there's ever been one called unique, but there have been unknown.
The Them Online is unique.
Is it?
Yep. And I believe Uko is also classified as unique.
I think it's unknown, but regardless.
But yeah, an unknown could be another. It's Ancient Fairy.
It'll be interesting because in the previous ones they mushed everything that wasn't data virus or vaccine together under free.
Yeah.
And then it looks like one of the new elements is metal or machine, which has frequently been an attribute, and I go back and forth on whether I prefer having the missile attacks being fire or having them being like actually significantly separated from, actual fire breath.
Yeah.
And then the other one I could not tell for sure, but there were two ones that looked like they could be wind. I think the other attributes that are not accounted for in the system in Cyber Sleuth Hacker's Memory that are previously featured repeatedly in the series, the ones I can think of are filth and fighting.
Yeah, and like filth was literally just for Suka and Nume.
Well, yeah, because in the original Digimons, that was like one of the attack types.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting if they. I would guess fighting before filth, but fighting kind of goes with like you're breaking up most neutral stuff if you include fighting as well as like earth. So and they did still have what looked like a neutral, so we'll see. And I think previously filth attacks. Admittedly, there aren't a lot of them. It's Sukamon. It is the 5 poop Digimon plus a few of their successors. But those were generally either dark or earth, I think. In previous games,
except for Platinum Nume was light.
I'm talking about their attacks, not their thems.
No, like a lot of the was it Platinum Sukamon or Numemon? The Mega Numemon was the one that was weird because it had mostly light attacks.
Yeah.
Because it was an angel.
Right. Gold and Platinum both kind of do that.
But yeah, I think
it'll be interesting to see how they change the battle system between games.
Yeah, because they didn't really show much combat, just kind of like looking at some of the menus in the Digimon walking around.
Yeah, it was a menu screen of a Gardramon and then showing possibly being able to select skills to add to it. And then it had also, because of the way they're showing the weaknesses and resistances now, they may be more on an individual Digimon basis or certainly having more than just the 9 different possible arrangements, because
I mean,
there are only basically in the previous system there were only like 2 affinities 2 or 3 things you'd have to remember interactions with for any given Digimon.
And even then, like at least as far as elements went, there was, I wouldn't say negligible, but you could get through without dealing with it as long as you dealt with the main type.
If I remember correctly, the attribute rock paper scissor was
2 or 3x multiplier.
The attacker, a strong attacker does like, I think it's only like 1.5, but also a weak attacker only does like a quarter,
something like that,
or like half. And then the element one is a smaller amount, and it's only super effective. There were no elemental resistances.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I've spent way too much time working on things related to this, so.
Anyway,
anything else?
Anyway, we interrupt this episode of Talkmon with Eddie and Galix to get back to what we were actually talking about, and that was video games.
Yeah. Sorry, we go down the Digimon hole.
I'm aware. Like, I am very aware. Anyway, getting back to the state of play, let's see, right, Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater confirmed that it's having the Ape Escape crossover rebuilt into it.
They have shown more love to Ape Escape than the developers of Ape Escape.
Well, Sony.
Yes.
The developers of Ape Escape were very fluid.
Fair. Because this is the most love Ape Escape has gotten in 20 years?
I mean, whenever the last Ape Escape was.
About 20 years ago.
Possibly.
They've managed
anyway.
to keep those apes from escaping for quite a while now.
True enough. And I guess finally, like a whole bunch of indie titles.
The guys
Stuff.
from Journey are back with the Sword of the Sea, which is
Right.
it looks cool. If it's not super expensive, I may get it.
What was that
Yeah,
Sea of Merchants or Sea Remnants thing?
The pirate game?
Yeah.
Sword of the Sea.
No, that's the Sword
No,
of the
that's a
Sea is the
different
one you're
Sword of the-
riding
Sword
on.
of the Sword of the Sea was the sword surfing one.
Right. Sea of Remnants. Yeah, Sea of Remnants. That's the one that was using the arcane filters and shit.
Yeah, the one that it looks like it has more effort put into it than all of Skull and Bones.
Yes, it is called. It is called Sea of Remnants, which is a stylish new pirate-themed, free-to-play voyage-themed RPG.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
it is? I didn't know it was free to play.
The game
That always makes
bakers,
me concerned.
the game bakers, they of Fury and Haven fame, I believe, announced Karen, the mountain climbing adventure game. And we got Baby Steps, which looks like the next evolution of those physics walker games. Apparently, what they needed was British humor.
I totally missed that thing existed.
It was the most British thing at the conference.
Yeah.
And I think that's about it. Like,
007 First Light.
Yeah, you forgot about James Bond.
That's right. Well, that's because they didn't actually show it off. They showed off CG shit. Like it's not the
yeah.
it's not the game. It's not the gameplay. No, that's coming at Summer Game Fest. That's why I blanked it out. It's like, look, you showed me CG trailers. You might as well be showing me.
Apparently, it's a mix of CG and in-engine footage, and I mean,
that's somewhat better.
Yeah.
I will credit to the like pre full on pre-rendered CG. My mind will completely clock out because you might as well be showing me a funhouse mirror for how realistic it's going to be to the actual game.
Because there was some gameplay in here, just not. It was missing a lot of the UI if there is one. Like there is some combat and stuff.
Anyway, so yeah, that's the state of play. Quite a lot. And it doesn't escape my notice that Sony decided to do this one day before the Nintendo Switch 2 launches. But I don't think that anything here is going to steal the online buzz from Nintendo's new mighty machine and its cart-based juggernaut.
I mean, unless they all catastrophically Xbox 360 levels of fail, like out of the box.
Doubtful.
I know it's doubtful, but that'd probably be the only thing that would stop it.
Right. So, don't really have a good closer here.
Video games are fun. Go play some.
Anyway, so that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon. Coming up on the week ahead, as previously stated, no MSP episode. On Friday, June 6th, we'll be welcoming Jaime of Kaleido Game. Going with that, unless otherwise corrected, because it really feels like it's supposed to be like a playoff of Kaleidoscope. Anyway, if I can find the proper window. You have so many open. Not that one. No, no. Here we go. Where is it? Look. Oh, here we go. We'll be talking about the game Slam and Roll, which is a 2D platformer. Slam and Roll is a modern 2D platformer where you beat enemies by throwing them sport balls. It literally says sport balls. Play 200 plus stages while traveling around the world, rescuing new characters. A frantic tribute to 90s arcade stage clear game. Is that really a thing? Like, arcade, like 90s arcade stage clear game. Platformers were sure a thing in arcades, but they weren't all that popular genre. Play solo or with a friend. Unlimited hours of fun playing chaos mode. So look for that in a couple of days. And coming up on the Sunday reviews, be having reviews. These will be the final reviews of the season as we review Stratogun, Portal Fantasy, The House of Da Vinci 2, and Blight Knight. You are not safe. So until next time, I shall wish you good gaming.